give a warm welcome to Mary Snyder.
Saturation. That word is very likely how you are currently feeling. Am I right? Yes. Can I get a, can I get an amen? You have been in workshops for the last 2 days. You've heard from incredible coaches, consultants, leaders in the nonprofit storytelling space. You have notebooks, iPads, whatever you're filling up. If you're fancy, you've got one of those Remarkables. I had one for a minute. I lost it. It was just, and then I had to carry 4 devices with me. But you have notes upon notes upon notes. What is the first thing you're going to do Monday morning? Just shout it out. You're going to fly. Do what? Check our blog post. Why are you going to check your blog post? Make sure there's no missing photos, the words that don't have spaces, things are formatted right. But what are you going to do with what you learned here? Is that what you learned here? Okay. He is of no assistance to me. But he's got a good beard, so there's that. We all have different gifts. So what will you do? Same gentleman, blog post, sir. What are you going to do with what you learned here on Monday?
Probably going to try and really just put everything down on paper and figure out what's easiest to apply first. One of the things we were talking about walking over, which is something I didn't learn here specifically, but from the Better Fundraising Company, is to reuse stuff as often as you can. And so we have donor appeals. We have an archive of them at this point. How can I turn those into blog posts? How can I turn those into newsletter stories? Is the story over? Is there an element behind that story that I could use? So just recycling content in a good way.
Great. But did you catch that the first thing you said, and I loved it, is I'm going to write everything down and mull it over. Guess what we're not doing here today? No mulling. We are actually going to work on your story. Because for me, I'm very practical, and I also may or may not have ADHD. I'm not sure, but I think the 47 projects I start every week are a high indicator that I do. So what I have learned about me in my years is that I have to have an application to it, or it is a notebook, it is a Google Doc, it is a folder in Dropbox that a year from now I'll go, oh yeah, remember when they said that thing at that conference and that guy did, and then it was something about the way you wrote that letter. And I go look for it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take your story and we're going to workshop it. Well, what does that mean? It means depending on how you use your story. Let me let you in on a little bitty secret. You've heard a lot of people tell you how to tell story, haven't you? Probably some of it is a little bit different than what the other person said. There is no perfect formula for storytelling. None. I can tell you some things that work for some audiences. The one thing I will tell you is that you have less than 7 seconds to capture the attention of a live audience. And when I say live, that means video too. That means if I'm standing up here and I had reintroduced myself to you and asked you how the weather was and what did you think of the hotel and are you having fun here at the conference, you would have zoned me out because I wasn't bringing you any value. That I can tell you is a scientific fact. The way you tell story is dependent on the story you're telling, who you're telling it to, or the way I like to say, with, because a story is a conversation. It's just your turn to talk. Think about it like this. You're sitting across the table from a donor. You've gone through the pleasantries, and now it's time for you to unpack the story that will move them to action. More than likely, you're going to want buy-in. You're going to look them in the eye. You're going to talk. You're going to pause. But you're going to tell a different story if it's written and it's in a campaign, an appeal letter. And you're going to tell a different story if you're standing on a stage in front of hundreds or even thousands of people and asking them to join you in what you do. So what we're going to do for the next 50-ish minutes is we're going to live workshop your story. So what I would love to do is we have mics over here. I want you to just come and share a little bit of your story. First, how do you use this story? And then let's talk through some of the ways that we can, I like to call it spark it up. Make it a little fancier, make it a little more connecting. So are you ready? That is the weakest. Are you ready? Look, y'all, they gave me the 8 o'clock session. I have been up since 5, drinking coffee, listening to music, doing the thing. It wasn't pretty, but I did it. And I'm ready to go because I'm on Central Time. I know I hear West Coast, Best Coast. Y'all have not been to the South in the fall. I'm just here to tell y'all. Some of y'all have because you live there, praise the Lord. But I want you to go. We have these two lovely volunteers, one on this side, one on this side. And I want you to come and tell your story. If you don't, this is going to be the most uncomfortable 50 minutes you've spent. And just get up, darling. You don't have to raise your hand.
Hi, so this is the story that I would tell. My name's Elizabeth, and I work in a general hospital in my local community, Guelph, Ontario, Canada. And when I'm speaking with donors, I like to share my own personal story at the hospital because it's really what inspired me to start working there. So when I was 10 years ago, I gave birth to my son, did everything I possibly could to have a home birth. I did not want to have a child in a hospital. And 30 some odd hours later, it was recommended that I go to the hospital. Once I was there, they realized that the baby was under stress and I needed to have an emergency cesarean. His umbilical cord was around his torso. He wasn't dropping. He was suspended there. He wasn't coming out any other way. So after the birth, of course, I spent 3 days in the hospital recovering. They wanted to monitor him, so he spent 4 days in the special care nursery. And so that was 10 years ago. 2.5 years later, I was dismissed from a job, the first time that had ever happened in my life, but it gave me the space to really, truly think about what I wanted to do. And I wrote down the first place that I wanted to work was at my local hospital in communications. And so I volunteered. Position in communications opened up at the same time, got the job. On my first week of working, I was sent up to the special care nursery to take a photo of a piece of equipment that a single donor had funded. I got up there and I'm standing by the piece of equipment that the nurse led me to, and it was right in the same spot where my son spent the first 2 days of his life, and also the exact same piece of equipment that he spent the same 2 days of his life in. So for me, it was just, wow, it really made me understand in that moment just how important funding is to hospitals in Canada. We're lucky to have a public health system, but patient care equipment still is funded by community. Every single piece of equipment from IV medicine pumps, hospital beds, special care nursery equipment, MRIs. So it was a really impactful moment for me, and one that I like to share with donors because it's in that moment that I felt just this wave of gratitude and appreciation for what our community does, and that same appreciation 10 years later is still with me today.
So let me ask you a couple of questions. Is that the way you share the story?
No, but I know there's a better way to share it. And I've been pondering this.
So how would you start? I'm your donor. Mm-hmm. This is live coaching. I'm your donor. We've already had niceties and all the things. How are you moving into your appeal portion of this?
Yeah. I was contemplating maybe starting with how I, just the emotion, standing beside, there I am in this special care nursery, camera around my neck, standing beside this piece of equipment, feeling my tears well up in my eyes, starting
Do
to
it
feel my...
live. We're talking.
Yeah.
I'm your donor.
Yeah, sorry.
Talk to
okay.
me.
All right. So,
Can I give you a suggestion?
yes.
I'm making up some details here, so give me grace, because I don't know your whole story. I
Okay.
just got, what you shared right there. 10 years ago, I was standing in front of a piece of equipment. This piece of equipment held the most important thing in my life, my child. I later learned that piece of equipment would not have been there if it wasn't someone like you.
Yes.
And what I did there is I inspired, I did not manipulate. I am I don't manipulate people. I can. I have. I'm married. I had to help him fix his computer over FaceTime yesterday. Somebody should have given me a margarita at 10:30. But what I did is I took your whole story down to what matters to them. Mm-hmm. They want to know this piece of equipment was supplied by somebody that looks like me, that has the pocket I have, and why it matters to you. And then you can unpack more of the story if they ask. This is much like the way you tell your children about sex. Just what they ask, like, Mama, where do babies come from? You don't unpack the whole story when they're 4. You just go, they come out of the mama's belly. And then they usually go, okay, and you move on. Same thing. Tell them as much as some donors don't want to know more. They don't want to know everything. They just want to know, oh, you need, and you can say, currently we are in need of 5 more of these $500,000 machines. Don't make it that big, that's too big. But we need 1 more in our hospital. And that machine is $250,000. I don't know how much that machine costs, probably 1.4 gazillion. They're not that expensive. Okay, but do you see what I did there? Okay, so you see how this works? All right, we're good. Let's go over here.
I'm going to first just say kudos to her for being brave enough to be the first one to stand up.
Woo, woo, woo.
Today, I got a chance to sit across from Brenda Sloan. And I know it's been 18 months since the floods in East Kentucky, and people have kind of moved on because the news cycle has moved on. But Brenda is someone who sort of fell through the cracks. And she and her granddaughter have not had electricity or running water in their home for 2 years. And I had to just fight back the tears because I knew people had forgotten about her and her family. But because of donors like you, you make it possible for us to continue the work because there is still need in East Kentucky. And we could not have done what we've done without the support of donors just like you. Will you consider making a gift today to help those remaining families in East Kentucky?
That was good. All right, don't go anywhere. Stay up there. Tell me your name, lovely.
Tina Bryson.
Tina.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm from the South. Yes, ma'am.
Girl, I know. I call everybody man. Everybody's Miss Julie, Miss
Absolutely.
Tina. That's how we were raised.
Absolutely.
We don't know no better. So the one thing I felt was missing, it was beautiful. I would shrink it down a little bit. I wouldn't even, let me tell you a story about Brenda. Brenda's grandmother raising her grandchildren in a home with no electricity. Because 2 years ago, the flood, you remember the flood, it wiped out everything for her. We've all moved on, but not Brenda. And then you give them the number you need. What do you need? Because telling them to help, they need to know what you need help for. People are looking for you to give them the next step. What is the next step? Will you donate? Donate to what, to do what? Will you help families just like Brenda? There are hundreds or thousands of Brendas in Kentucky. We want to reach them. Your gift today will allow us to reach families. And depending on who your donor is in your conversation, If you know that they could help a whole community and it's going to be $20,000, help them understand give it a parameter. But again, you have to know who you're talking to. This may be a donor that doesn't want that kind of big pressure. You know your donors. You know how to communicate with them. But that was a beautiful story and very well done. Who's my next brave soul? And if you're a writer, you can do that. I write copy. I do live events. If you have a live event where you want to do something, okay, we have another lovely. Stand up.
Oh. Hi, I'm Nicole. I'm with the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Central Florida. So I watched a very close friend of mine experience the happiest day of his life and then the worst day of his life when he had the birth of his son, and then 2 weeks later, that son unfortunately passed. But with that, he saw my face in the Ronald McDonald House and felt that sense of community. He was able to take that grief and have a second where we were able to talk about our time working at Disney World. We were able to talk about other things except for what he was currently going through and that trauma. So being able to give that sense of relief for just a couple of minutes was really important. Our average family stay about 11 nights with us at the Ronald McDonald House. And so for just about $1,000, you can cover that family stay so that way they are able to stay completely free of charge to them and really focus on their child while they are staying in the hospital. So would you donate to us today?
That's good. You don't. This is my turn. So your friend, you saw him experience, and he saw your face. So you already knew this person?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. The only reason I call that out is because that was a stumbling block for me as a donor. Mm-hmm. Because I immediately said, well, she don't know everybody. She can't help everybody. So I would maybe shift that around a little bit and just say, let me tell you the story of David. David was with us here at the house for, how long was he there? 2 weeks? 10 days?
About 5 nights.
He was with us for about 5 days. In those 5 days, between the birth and the death of his son, he had the chance to have a place where he could rest, people to talk to, people that enabled him to step away from the trauma for just a moment. That's what we do. We give people a safe place to process. The average family stays about 11 nights with us, and that cost about $1,000. I'm depending on you. How many families can you help us give that safe place to process? And then be real quiet. Number one thing we do as fundraisers is talk, because you're telling stories. Are you okay with that pregnant pause? How many of you are really comfortable with just being quiet after you make the donation? I like you, Mr. Beard. Is that natural or is it learned behavior? Little of both. Same. Same. We learn how to manipulate young. Well, you have to if you want to survive. It's, they're feral out there. Gen X, we were the last feral children, I think. But just the shift in the story takes it away from you being the center of the story and the house being the center of the story. Mm-hmm. Because I know that's heartfelt for you because he was your friend and you walked it through it. But shift it to where they see the impact of their dollars on families that look like him, mm-hmm. on the families that are coming down the road. Great job and great work that you do. I love Ronald McDonald House. All right, over here. I love that we're bouncing back and forth. It's like ping pong.
So, Mary, I know that you care about the veterans in our community and that they should never have to want for basic needs. I work for Second Harvest Food Bank here in Orlando, and I want to tell you about Jeremy, one of the disabled veterans who we've gotten to know recently. Jeremy served in Korea and in the Middle East, and when he came home, he didn't have the support that he needed. So he relies on different partners in the community to go about his life. And he finds meaning in volunteering with us at the food bank. But at the end of the day, he takes food home with him. So he's still serving our country and our community. And because of people like you, we're able to continue to serve him.
That's beautiful. I want to help Jeremy. But we're going to shift that story just a little bit. You asked me.
I just met him 2 weeks ago, and I'm working this in my head.
Oh,
so thank
you're
you.
right. Don't you love that?
Yes.
That's the fun. That's the fun part of storytelling. It's the crafting. And here's what you can do. You just told me this big story, and we're going to take it down and we're going to edit it, because you know what's great about storytelling? Editing. It's the hardest thing you do. And sometimes, if I have any book authors in here, you'll understand this phrase, you have to kill your darlings. It may be the favorite part of the story, like this is my friend. We killed that part. That was a darling. So you asked me a question. Mary, I know you care. Maybe I don't.
Well, but you're in my portfolio, and I know
Oh,
you.
maybe I do. Maybe I was guilted into it. I would love you to start with him being the volunteer. Okay. Like, start at the result. Think about it this way, and we're just going to play with it a little bit. So, I know you care about the veterans in our community. Jeremy, he shows up every day. He's hardworking. He volunteers at the food bank. Jeremy served in Korea. He served in Desert Storm. And he's still serving in this community. But Jeremy does this not only because he loves Central Florida, but because he doesn't have food. Because you see, when he came home, he didn't have a support system like so many of our veterans don't. And so, to take care of himself, he comes to us, he volunteers, and he takes home food every night. There are a lot of Jeremys out there. And I know you're like me. For $89,000, I just made up a number for you. For $1,000, we can feed X number of veterans a week. For $500, you know your donor, you know the number that's going to resonate with him. But I shifted the story to the impact he's doing, and then I moved it backwards through what he's been through. Because when we start with this huge, like he's a veteran, he served, I get lost in the details, because I don't know if y'all have heard this, but we are losing our attention span. I call it the TikTok syndrome, and I have it. It's like, that's not fun, swipe. That's not fun, swipe. That's not fun, swipe. It's the same thing. So you want to hold them. So it's a beautiful story. And I think it would have worked either way. Mm-hmm. Just, you know what? Do a test. Try it both ways. Okay. Not on the same donor. That would be weird.
No.
But thank you for sharing.
No, thank you. If anyone took notes on her feedback for me while I was standing here, I would appreciate that.
We have a hand up before that. Okay, do you have a question? Okay, we're going to get you a mic, and then we're going to do your story.
Good morning. I just have a quick question. Adrienne with Episcopal Community Services. So based upon what you just shared with her, if this was a written article with a written appeal, can you kind of walk us through how you would structure that article in terms of opening it up, the body of the information, and how you would close it out?
Is this an article, an appeal? Is it
Yes, an article with an appeal.
Okay, so it's an appeal letter. You're
Yes.
campaigning. Okay, it's a campaign letter. $1,000, we need to feed. I would start with the need very first. The need leads. Kind of like it bleeds, it leads. All you got to do is watch the current news. So the most important thing at the top. And remember, people get lost if you start talking about millions. If you're looking for $100, $100 feeds one vet for a week. $50, whatever you're wanting to raise. And then you tell the Jeremy story. And then you close with the, how much can we depend on you for? And you give them the elements of what that would be. Again, remember, the need leads. Don't you love rhyming things? All right.
Just a real quick introduction. I'm Frank Moraga. I'm with the Coconino Coalition for Children and Youth. We have a small organization, but we do have a news website that support our 100 partners throughout northern Arizona. And so I write the news stories. And so the story I have for today is supporting food share. Winter is fast approaching in northern Arizona. Snow will be coming. They're opening up about a dozen food share locations throughout northern Arizona. We need volunteers to go ahead and staff those locations so we can get food out to folks throughout northern Arizona before it's too late.
Okay, again, you're writing an article about needing food for your food banks. Is that right? You need volunteers. We don't need no food. We're good. We need people. We need bodies. Okay. All right. So start with what you need, because your need was buried at the bottom. You're a journalist. Above the fold. Above the fold, if you're old school and you know what that means, that's a newspaper. Way back, there used to be printed newspapers, y'all. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And they would put them in these boxes, and you would put a quarter in, and then you would get a newspaper out. It was a whole thing. And on Sunday, you put 4 quarters in, and you get the big fat newspaper with a thing called the Parade magazine, which was my favorite part. I learned to reading Parade magazine and cereal boxes. But above the fold was what showed in the box. You know, McGovern wins was one that was inappropriately. McGovern did not win presidency, for any of you who are old enough. That was actually the lead. You have more. No, you're waiting for me.
I'm waiting for you. Just don't say that I use lead type to go ahead and send my stories.
Okay. So start with what you need. You need 100 volunteers. We need 5 volunteers. We need volunteers in our food banks. Then go into why. The need, agitate that problem. What's the problem? The problem is you need volunteers. Agitate it. Winter's coming. The need will grow. We need people to man the location. People will go hungry if they don't. So people need food. Winter's coming. Tell the story in reverse. So the biggest need first. Go to why that need is. And then today, this is how you're going to do this. Sign up, go, come, but tell them what you need. Because you know how much of your newsletter, your article people read? Yeah, this much. Unless you go tell them the need, and this is what I'm going to do. Oh, you need volunteers. Okay, where? And I'm going to go straight to the bottom and look at what you're looking for. So tell them what you need and how to reach you.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, ladies, the guys are showing y'all up, and we have more females in here. So I'm just speaking it out. Here we go.
All right, I'm Brian with Damascus Community Church and Christian School. So I've got some unique elements. I've got all of my audience pretty much knows us. So I've got school parents. I've got people that go to the church. We've run out of space. The school's overrun. We're doing a capital campaign. So I'm telling a story about a family that has left a legacy throughout that. So the mom grew up in she had alcoholic parents, rough childhood, ended up coming up to Oregon, found the Lord. The church really surrounded her. She never had a family. She started one, and now she has all 4 of her children, adult children my age, that have continued that. They all graduated from the school. They all are still in the church. 13 grandchildren, same thing. They're involved. They're coaches in the school. They're doing everything. So I'm looking at a legacy story, and I don't have it very polished, but I'm looking at that for an appeal, and I already have a video in process.
Okay, so what do you want to do with this legacy story? What is the end goal for the story?
I want to share with people that their investment in our capital campaign will allow us to change more lives like these people.
Okay. That's a little fuzzy. So you want me to give money so my family will look like that? Is that what you're trying to?
I guess it's more I want to share money, so I want you to share money so that we can continue to impact more lives.
There's one thing that's just slightly bothering me about this. It's because this family feels perfect. And as a donor, I'm like, well, man, I screwed up somewhere. So is there a struggle the family had? Or is it all, and please know this is coming heartfelt, is it all sunshine and roses and unicorns? Because it feels like if you give money, what happens if I give money?
Yeah, so on the church side of things, what happens if you give him money is you never know when this broken woman comes through the door and what may happen to her life and the impact that goes down generations.
That's good. That's good. And I get this. I work with faith-based nonprofits. I come out of the faith-based space. So I really get the church message. That's good. I would lean into, for the story, her story. The alcoholic family, the struggles that really she had, and really lighten up on the perfection of what she's created, where she came from, and the power of what the church, and I'm assuming Jesus Christ, I don't know, it may not be. Okay.
Amen.
Okay, well, you never know. I mean, I just want to be inclusive, but really focus, because that's going to speak to your people, is that because people cared. She has 13 grandchildren, so she's got to be at least 60. I don't know how old y'all get married. I'm from Alabama, so she could be a lot younger. Yeah. I can say that because I'm from there. Y'all cannot. Yes, you can. But she's, how old, 70?
60s, mid-60s.
With 13 grandchildren? Serious business? Wow. So 60 years ago or 50 years ago, somebody in the church cared enough to say she matters. They cared enough to say, this one, she matters, and we'll make a difference. And that's what we're asking you to do. Because without that person, this, and that's her family, her children, would not exist. Or it would not look like this. That speaks to people of faith, because they want to know the power of transformation. So if you take that story and really focus on the transformation, then me, as a churchgoer, as a supporter, as a donor to the school, I'm like, I'm all in. I'm all in. I know that family. Because more than likely, everybody in church knows that family. Everybody in the school knows that family. I'm all in. I want more of that in our community. There's a shift in the narrative. You see what I'm saying? We tracking? We right here? Okay. But I think it's a great story, but focusing on where she came from is really going to help people say, I want to do that for the next, and I'm just making up a name, for the next Donna that comes through the door. I want to make sure that we are funded so the next Donna is helped. So,
thank you.
Great job.
Hi, my name is Bailey Full. I'm from the Cleveland Orchestra. And I have many questions, but my one question, which is going to tack on to that gentleman's initial pitch, is there ever an appropriate way to acknowledge, I know like CDOs and gift officers want to highlight their major givers in some way that's like super public. Is there ever an appropriate way, an irrelevant way to share their story with the more broad-based audience, or should we be keeping these people's profiles up at like the major giving level because it's a little bit more relevant?
So can I rephrase the question just so I understand it for clarity for me?
Yes.
So you're asking if it's ever appropriate to share a major gift donor's giving level, who they are, is that correct?
Not quite, just that like this person has made a legacy gift and their impact has been great.
I think you ask them. It's their story.
Well, what I'm more asking is like, is it relevant for a broad base to get a story like that? Because you just geared him away from that.
Yes.
So
I steered him away from a story of perfection.
Yeah.
What you're talking, and that would matter to a certain crowd. People that are at that level who can give a legacy gift,
That's
who
what
can
I was
give a
wondering.
million.
Okay.
Understand who you're talking to.
Yep.
So in a room full of people that have that giving capacity, that is fine. But in a room where you're trying to get somebody to give you $100, they're going to be devastated because they can't help you. They don't have a legacy gift. They have $100, and that's the best they can do. So understand your audience, right story, right audience at the right time.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, back over here. Okay, first I just want to do a temperature check. Because if this is really not your thing, you can leave. I am real thick-skinned. I'll talk about you after you leave. We'll have words, the ones remaining, but y'all can go. I don't want you to be here if you're like, I don't know what she's doing. I just want to make sure, are we all tracking? Are we liking this? I just did that so y'all would applaud and make me feel better about myself. See, manipulation, there it is.
So I am not a fundraiser. I'm a marketing specialist that supports some fundraisers. So I feel a little out of my depth.
No, you are exactly. You tell stories, darling.
So I do a monthly video featuring people who have already given. So I'm going to try to summarize the one that I most recently did.
Okay.
Linda lost her husband of 56 years this summer. Terry had congestive heart failure, among other health conditions. At one doctor's visit, the doctor asked Linda, "What is your plan? Have you considered hospice?" She was grateful for that doctor's suggestion because she didn't have a plan and didn't know that hospice could help care for him in their home. She knew she didn't want to put him in a nursing home. That was the only thing she knew.
Yeah.
So she was grateful that someone pointed her to Hospice of Mercy. People came into the home for about 6 months. Terry spent his last remaining days in the Hospice House of Mercy. She was so grateful for the care that he received and the support she and her adult sons received that she has now made a grateful patient donation in his memory in the honor of his caregivers. But then it's like, that's it. There's no call to action in the videos. That lives on the landing page or in the email that it gives. Because that's what they've always done.
Who wants that?
And I am new.
You want me to call somebody? I will.
So they're these people that I get to meet, and they're lovely. They're not my donors.
Right.
I'm typically meeting them for only the first or second time during the interview.
You're the interviewer.
And so I feel like I have to honor the story that they're sharing with me. And I haven't found a way to integrate a call to action within the video itself without feeling like I'm cheapening that story that they're sharing with us.
You're sharing the story because you want to keep doing the work, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, I love the ma'ams. Not that it makes me feel old at all. You're sharing the story because you want to do more of the same work. Or are you sharing the story because you want to pat somebody on the back? Because that's a pat on the back. That's not going to move anybody to action because you didn't ask me what to do. You didn't. So basically, if I don't have anybody in hospice, I don't care. I would love for you to reframe and just rethink this. I know you're new. They're probably not going to let you do this, but we can try. What if we took bits and pieces of that story and we started with the For 6 months, Terry was in hospice. This is the part where I'm thinking, y'all. It sounds like a pregnancy. For 6 months, Terry was in hospice. A place that Judy, I forgot her name. Is it Judy? Linda. A place that his wife, I would only use one name because, again, I already forgot it. A place his wife, Linda, didn't even know this was an option just a few months before. Terry lived out his days in the comfort of his own home. There are a lot of people like Terry who want to live out their days, their final days, in the comfort of their home. It's what we do here at Hospice of Mercy. Hospice of Mercy. But we need help. Linda gave a wonderful gift in honor of her caregivers. Now, you may not have someone in hospice today, but I'm sure you know of someone. Can you make a gift and help someone live out their days?
May I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
We often don't, in this particular vehicle, we often don't state the amount of the gift the person made. Is that, am I missing an opportunity to connect with people on that level?
You are doing a video. So a video is a little more vague because you don't know who's viewing that. If it's a person that can give $25,000 or a person that can give $25. So you don't want to pigeonhole them. You're just asking for a gift. And a video's not a great CTA, call to action form. You just want to have something at the end, even if it's just a panel, because I'm thinking about this is already created. Even if you just do a final panel and say, will you give to help the next Terry live out their final days?
Thank you.
Something like that. Keep in touch with me. I want to know how it goes. Oh, we're over here. Again, bing, 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 bing. Hey there.
Hi. Okay, thanks. My name is Julie, and I have a small nonprofit in Kenya. I've got a school there, and as a teacher, I've saw a need for helping my students become global citizens. So we started a school. We built a school in Kenya. These kids in Kenya, we started with 5 kids in a chicken coop, and it has grown to 157 kids.
Wow.
With 9 teachers, all in a Maasai village. And we've implemented feeding programs, we've implemented food programs, lots of different things to help them, sports, all kinds of programs. However, our well that we drilled 10 years ago has run dry. So we are in desperate need to drill a well for them so that we could continue to keep these programs going and keep these children in school. Mm-hmm. Already we have kids dropping out because of dysentery and waterborne diseases. So the need is dire, and the need is, it's overwhelming because of how much it costs to drill for water. So we're hoping that we could depend on you to help us to drill that well as soon as possible.
Okay, so a couple of questions. Number one, I love the work you do. One of my clients is Compassion International, so they work in that region. So tell me, how much does it cost to drill a well?
$50,000.
Okay, that's a number. All right. And how much does your average giver give? Do you have a $50,000 donor you can approach about this?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Most nonprofits, small nonprofits don't have those. Okay. What size do you have? Do you have donors in the 20,000, in the 10,000?
No, we have our school community in Colorado. It's mostly, teachers. It's mostly parents of the students that have been contributing over the years because they've helped to build this school over the last 10 years. And most of the gifts are anywhere between $100 and $1,000 at most.
Well, you're going to need a lot of those, and that's okay. We can do that. You're going to need $51,000, and I'm not good with math. I have other gifts. So there'll be, if you get 500 people, it'll be, how much? $100. Is that right? Nobody's helping me. Thank you. I got a math person over here going, you got it, girl. You good. So how big's your database?
Pretty small.
Okay, this is okay.
Yeah.
What about, and now I'm going into strategy with you.
Yeah.
So what about partnering with somebody that brings clean water?
Right.
What about partnering with somebody that drills boreholes, which is another word for a well?
I've tried to approach Matt Damon, but he won't respond to me.
Well, I mean, I love a girl that goes big, but maybe you want to just go, I mean, keep trying.
Right.
But maybe there's someone else in the region. Or is there anybody in this region doing clean water initiative?
We've reached out to a lot of companies that drill water. It's hard to get their attention, and it's hard to partner with them.
Yeah.
We've even written a lot of grants, and we don't receive any communication back.
Okay, so, but what about other nonprofits? I know people that drill, but other nonprofits.
Okay.
Have you tried
Water
that?
Charity, Living Water International.
Excuse me?
Say that again?
Water Charity, Living Water International,
Okay.
all those places.
Okay. Thank you.
And then there's quite a few of them. Do they have access to any water?
Right now, they're going back to sharing their water with the livestock.
So we could do, but you know what you could do? You could do a Sawyer filter.
Sawyer filter?
Sawyer filter, it filters water.
Okay.
I'll connect you with somebody, but let's talk about
Thank
this
you.
campaign.
Thank you.
Nope, we're gonna do your campaign. Hold up, hold
okay.
up, hold up. We're still gonna try. 50,000 we need to raise, so you're gonna start with the need, and you're gonna
Yes.
start with what's happening. Our children are dropping out of school. People already know who you are. You don't have to explain yourself.
Right.
Your people know you. Children are dropping out of school because of waterborne illness, because we no longer, the well that we put in 10 years ago has failed. We need your help. Your gift of 1,000, you figure out who you're talking to, if it's in person or written, and you ask them for the gift. And you put a campaign around it, a viral campaign. You're going to create something that you want everybody talking about. You have a school, there are more schools in your area. Bring them into the mix. Let this be a community effort. Don't let it sit firmly just on your shoulders and the shoulders of your school. What size town do you live in?
It's pretty big, Littleton, Colorado. It's big.
Oh, yeah. Come on. Is this a private school?
No, in Africa, it's a private school.
Yes, of course.
But no public school in Colorado.
There's a lot of, could you go to the board and ask if you can do an initiative across all your schools?
Yeah,
to
they
do?
said no. They said.
Do I need to call somebody?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you've tried that. So we're just going to do the campaign to your
Right.
people.
Right.
You start with what's happening. The problem is kids are dropping out because there is no water.
Right.
Then you go to what you need from them. We need to drill a well. It will be a $50,000 well.
Mm-hmm.
We need your help. What can we depend on you for? Boom.
Great. Thank you.
Start with that and keep in touch. I have some people for you to talk to. Okay. Here, where are we at? Okay, we have a question.
I was just going to say, if you tell me the story of the kid who had to drop out because of dysentery,
Absolutely.
I'm in.
Yep, absolutely. Excellent point.
Like a good student who just can't
One
go to
student
school
who had to
anymore.
leave. Yep, excellent point. All right, where are we at? Here? It's about time.
I've been
This
waiting.
this was my plant.
She told me last night to prepare. Hi, I'm Lily Prater. I work for Junior Achievement of Georgia. I had someone from our development team come up to me, and they said we had a great 3DE case challenge. Not everyone knows what 3DE is because it's only been 8 years, so it's still a baby in terms of programs. But they had a great partner, and they're seeing a lot of other partners. They're not stepping up to what they actually promised. And so he said, I think we should kind of do a highlight of them on social media to help make other places competitive. Oh, Shaw Industries is doing that. I want to do that. So I don't know how to take a story and put it in 3 sentences in a caption to make it worth.
Okay, so I have no idea what you just said. I am so confused. Am I the only one? Okay, so we're going to fix that.
That's part of the problem.
That's part of the problem, but we're going to fix it. Okay, so you are trying to tell me what you want to do. What do you want to do?
So we want to highlight one of our donors, one of our partners, and they did a great job with the students.
No. Nope.
Okay.
Tell me what you want me to do. What do you want me to do? What is the call to action on this?
But see, it's not, It's very LinkedIn specific because we want people, other companies to either join in, or if they've already joined in, oh, ours wasn't that cool. Why wasn't ours that cool?
Okay, you want to create FOMO. That's what you're trying to do.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so you're going to create FOMO by, tell me the next thing. This 3E thing, does everybody understand what 3E is?
So 3DE, it is a kind of an in-school program where we connect businesses with students, and they're told why they learned that in school. So they get to go ahead.
Tell one story of one student and one company.
Okay.
One story, one student, one company, and you tag that big company in there, and then you let the other company see the power of that. Is that what you're trying to accomplish?
Yes.
So, do you have one story about one student?
I could find one.
There you go. All right. We'll keep working on it.
Okay.
Stay in touch. All right. Here?
Yep. Yeah.
We've got about 8 minutes left, so we're going to fly through this.
All right, hi Mary. The purpose for me sharing my story, my name is Jody, and I work at a civil legal aid program. And the purpose for why I want to share this one is because of the sensitivity of the content and how you would handle it, and whether this is something that you would even broach with a donor. So I would approach this by, Mary, I know you're a mom, you're a parent, you love your kids, and you would do anything in the world to protect them. And I want to tell you the story about Sally, who came to our program because her child was raped by her step-grandfather. And she was not able to keep that child from going on visitation with her dad because there was a court order. And unfortunately, the police and the prosecutor would not prosecute the step-grandfather because the child was so traumatized that she couldn't go through with the forensic exam. And so Sally came to us desperate for a way to protect her child. And because of donors like you, we were able to go back through the civil legal system and help her secure a civil protection order that prevented there to be contact from the child and the step-grandfather. Would you help us continue to help parents, moms like Sally, be able to protect their kids?
That's a hard story to tell. And your question for me is, you want storytelling tips? You want...
I want to know,
How
these are hard stories to tell.
Do you have permission to share that story?
Right, and so yes, there are times when we would have permission to share stories like this, where the person would allow us to anonymously share their story as an example of the types of work that we do and why it matters to have these services.
Well, one of the things, and this is ethical storytelling, how old is the child?
She was 14.
Okay, she needs to give her permission for this story to be told, because she's at an age of consent. I know she's still a minor, but ethically, I could not tell her story without her approval. And all it would be is, I want to make sure that we will not say your name, we will not talk about specifics, but we want to help other people. So I would definitely want to get that. And then I wouldn't go into a lot of detail about what happened to her. I would just say she was raped in the home, in her father's home, on visitation. Didn't have to say step-grandfather. That gets real confusing to people, just by a family member that lived in the home with him.
Okay.
And then we want to stop this. We were able to step in. Too much detail can muddy the waters. Smaller detail. Let me tell you the story of Sally and her daughter. Her daughter was raped in the home of her father on a visitation. After going through all the court systems, she could not, because Sally couldn't go through a forensics exam. She was too traumatized. She could not stop this. She came to us. We went through the civil system. We protected that child. There are a lot more little children out there today that need our protection. Can we depend on you?
Thank you. That's a lot cleaner. Thank you.
All right, we got like 2 more minutes. If you just let's do a lightning round. You ready? You can do it. I know you can. I believe in you.
Yeah, my question should be pretty quick. I just feel like I tell a lot of stories. I'm a marketer, and a lot of times the people I interview have really good narrative, and the executive director tries to kind of polish the stories too much, so you lose a lot of the really good narrative.
Okay, so I'm going to reframe your question. So you have really great stories, but your ED is polishing them up and making them real pretty. When you say polishing them up, is she polishing up details? Is she polishing up grammar? What is she polishing?
So there was a story about a guy who rode his motorcycle and became handicapped on that first ride. We help people with disabilities. And the person I got the story from said he saved all of his money forever. And to me, that was really huge. Like, that kind of breaks your heart, because this was where he put all of his energy and all of his money. And she wants to say he saved his money. And I just feel like it really pulls away. And it happens a lot, but that was just one instance that stood out for me.
And that's a hard thing about being a part of a team. And she's the ED. And you know, you battle for your story, and you write it the best way you know how. And I'm not going to tell you to get into a fight with her, because that's not good. But explain to her, just say, this part of the story was really important to him. I would love to see if we can keep this in. Use it from a place of his story, not hey, you're messing with my story. Just, this was very important to him. Is there any way we could work this in? Try that. See if that works. Stay in touch. I'll call her, you know.
Hi, I'm a research coordinator in pediatric orthopedics, which is a fairly complex niche topic.
Yes.
We've got 20 programs within our lab and work very closely with a not-for-profit. So we're not specifically doing asks, but we work closely with this not-for-profit that does asks. But we do have an annual report, and it has a lot of detail that has some high-level scientific knowledge. We're trying to...
Yeah, people love that stuff, don't they?
Yeah, we're trying to make it very
I
simplified.
love it when I get one.
We're trying to focus on patient impacts for families, for clinicians.
Yes.
How do you make it simplified enough when there's 20 competing programs and there's so many narratives going on, and your executive directors do not want to cut out a single detail between all of the different stories?
That's... is this like Stump the Mary?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I feel like I'm being punked now. P&Ls are hard. Those, I mean, you know, those big annual reports, I always say your stories are in your people, not in your P&L. And help them see that the story is what moves the numbers. So the statistic, but a story that supports it.
Yeah.
So a story for each of the, you know, the 20 different things you do. So a story that will help explain the numbers. All right. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you.
Good luck. I'm not calling that person. And with that, I want to, because I'm super fancy, I never use slideshows, I want to tell you about some story prompts. I wrote story prompts for you. I love y'all all getting up. Or if you just want to get on the phone and talk about what I can do for your organization, this is what I do. I do it live, just like what we did here. I also help with copywriting, live events. That's my background. Yes, I've spent time on a tour bus, living like a rock star with 11 people I don't know. It's not that fun, I'm just gonna tell y'all. It sounds glamorous, but it's not. And I come out of that space with in the nonprofit event world and storytelling world. Those story prompts are just prompts to get you thinking about the three main stories we tell. And those stories are that very first passion story. Why do you work for this organization? Why did you start that school? The second one is a conversion story, the story that's going to convert somebody from a listener, an audience member, to a donor, or convert them to the next level of donor. And then the third is what I call the anti-hero story, because guess what? People don't want to be a hero. That reeks of saviorism. They want to join you in the impact you are doing around the world. It helps them see that. But thank you so much for being here and for being so engaging.